Interviews are awful if you don't know what you're doing. This video tells you exactly how you need to prepare for an interview by taking you through the 7 things that every successful candidate does before an interview. So whether you're about to have your first interview ever, or maybe you've been to quite a few interviews and perhaps you don't know exactly what you're doing right or doing wrong, this video is going to tell you everything you need to do to prepare to make sure that you give yourself the best shot possible. Don't forget to subscribe to Bloom and give this video a thumbs up if you found it useful. A common interview starter question is, tell us what you know about the company. So you've got to make sure that you do your research. Now, you will have probably already done this for the job application and CV stage, but just do a little bit more research just to remind yourself. And what you need to do is just make sure that you're able to sum up in a couple of sentences what it is the company does. If you want to make yourself stand out from the crowd, you can drop in some information about the company's competitors. Maybe if you've checked out what their company values are and what they look for employees, you can whack that in there too. Whilst researching the company and making sure that you have a good idea of what the company does and being able to sum that up, make sure that you re-familiarise yourself with the job role so that you know exactly what it is that they're looking for and what their expectations will be of you if you were to be employed for that role. We all know that cliche saying, fail to prepare, prepare to fail, but when it comes to interviews, never has a saying been so true. In order to avoid walking into the unknown and out of an interview feeling like, oh my God, what just happened? You've got to make sure that you prepare and practice the answers that you're going to give to the interview questions. So most interviews involve questions like, tell me about a time when, or describe a situation when you showed this skill. These sort of questions are asking you to give real life examples of when you displayed certain things, the decisions that you made, and the outcomes that came of it. If you're going to just wing it and go into an interview being asked these questions and without having prepared answers, it's going to be really difficult for you to think on the spot for things to say. Try and remember through your job history where you can attribute a certain skill to something that you did. So you need to make sure that you are prepared and that you come up with some answers before you get in that interview room. Now, Google is your best friend. Before every interview I have personally, I'll get on Google and I will Google practice interview questions. There literally is hundreds and hundreds of questions, practice questions that you can grab online. You can get particular questions for the industry. You can even Google practice interview questions for and the job role that you're applying for. And that will just generate loads of examples that then you can take away, read through and sit and prepare and literally write out your answers that you're going to say. Now, the interviewer is not expecting you to go into the interview without having practiced anything. If you think about actors, they don't go on set not having practiced and rehearsed what they're going to say. And the same goes for an interview. Again, if you're going to go in there and wing it, it's going to be a lot more nerve-wracking. But if you actually practice saying your answers out loud, find a quiet space so that people don't think, what the hell's going on? Practice saying it in front of a mirror, or if you feel confident enough to grab someone that can sit with you and run through your answers with you to just rehearse them, I would definitely recommend that too. At the end of almost every interview, you're going to be asked if you have any questions for the interviewer. Now, this is a test. This is them trying to test how engaged with the company that you are. So I would recommend that you pre-prepare some questions to ask them before your interview. Now, if you're worrying about having to memorize these, you've just spent an hour being grilled and now you've got to remember the questions that you want to ask, don't be afraid to jot these questions down in a notepad and just whack that out at the end of the interview. It's going to show them that you're organised, you're proactive, and you're passionate about the company because you've been doing this work beforehand. And these are all amazing qualities that they're going to be looking for in a candidate. So you've got to plan what you're going to wear for your interview. If you're unsure about what to wear, I would always suggest going formal. It's better to look overdressed and professional and serious about the role than to turn up underdressed or looking too casual. You could be perfect for the role, but because of what you're wearing, you might not come across as though you really want the job and that you're really professional. You want to make sure you look like you've made an effort, but also make sure that you're comfortable, because you don't want to be sat there. I've done this before actually, where I've worn a dress that was slightly too tight and I've literally been sat in the interview like a robot. So make sure you can move in whatever you're wearing. If you're thinking about wearing heels to give yourself a bit of confidence, that's what I always like to do. Make sure you can walk in them, but also make sure that if you've got a bit of a walk, maybe from the bus or train station to the job interview building, just whack some flats or trainers in your bag and then change into your heels when you're there. You just want to avoid any potential tumbles or just any stress before the interview even begins. So the day of the interview is fast approaching, you're ready and raring to go, you get out your cab, you've got no idea what building it is, there's loads of people around, time's ticking on, you're starting to panic, you check your phone, Google Maps has got no signal, 7 minutes till the interview, great, cool, fantastic, cool, yeah, okay. So tip number 5 is plan your journey. So whether you're going to be getting a cab, trains, buses, driving, make sure you plan and understand the timing, the trains that you need to take, the routes that you need to take. If you're going to be driving or getting a cab, I use the Google Maps function where you can pop in the postcode and you can search how long it would take to get there, and you can actually put in the time that you're going to be arriving as well, because rush hour changes everything. If you've never been to the area before, to avoid turning up on the day and just having absolutely no idea where you're going and what you're doing and just causing stress before the interview, I always do a recce journey as well. So the weekend before, what have you, I'll literally just take myself there, locate the building and just familiarise myself with where I'll be going on the day of the interview. It would just help give you so much more confidence and just avoid any stress beforehand. And when you are planning your journey, you want to make sure that you factor in some extra time so that you can arrive there early. So when you are planning, just make sure you bear in mind public transport delays, traffic delays, because come on, if you're in the UK, it's kind of a given. And you want to make sure that you're arriving to your interview about 10 to 15 minutes max beforehand. You don't want to get there too early and catch them off guard, because that's just going to be too much for them. But again, just give yourself that window of time so that you can arrive to the interview cool as a cucumber. Now finally, and this one is an absolute gem for me, and it's something that's helped me make sure that I've secured jobs, and that is, don't start the interview when you're in the interview room. Start the interview as soon as you walk into the building. Have you seen the McDonald's advert? And it's about this guy that goes into McDonald's for his breakfast, and he goes up to one of those screens to order his breakfast wrap or whatever, and the lady goes to do it at the same time, and he's like, oh, after you. Now this guy's on his way to an interview, so he's let this woman in front of the queue, blah blah blah, sits in McDonald's, has his wrap, gets into the interview, the door opens, and the person interviewing him is the lady in McDonald's. Now, he's met her coincidentally, and I know this is obviously a McDonald's advert, but hear me out. He's met her incidentally beforehand, and he's already displayed that he's conscientious, he's polite, he's selfless. The interview started to her before he even walked in the room, and he's already made a great impression of himself. And the same applies for you guys. You don't know who you might be interacting with as you enter the building, before you get to the interview building. You don't know who you might be bumping into and interacting with in the corridors. It could be the CEO, it could be someone in your team that you're going to be working with. So you've got to make sure that you're switched on and coming across as the best personal version of yourself from the get-go. So in preparation for your interview, hold the door open for people, smile, be polite, strike up conversation with the people that are checking you in for the interview, strike up conversation with the other interview candidates, be the confident one, be the icebreaker if you can, and it will also help calm the nerves yourself. I've actually been offered a job before where I went in for my interview and I was chatting with the receptionist who was signing me in, had the interview, and afterwards I was lucky enough to be offered the job. Turns out that the receptionist was actually someone working in my team, in the new team that I was in, and she was just helping out on the day. And she'd fed back to the managers that were interviewing me that I made loads of effort and I came across really well, and that helped me stand out above the crowd, and that helped lead to the job offer for me. So again, you just don't know who you're going to be interacting with, so just make the effort. Or if maybe you're not that confident and you're scared to start conversation, just smile and be polite, because again, you don't know who might be sat in front of you, or you don't know who may end up being in your team if you are offered the job. So apply these 7 interview preparation tips to any interview at all, and it will help you to feel confident going into an interview feeling like, right, I know what I'm doing, I've done the best preparation I can, so you can go in there, smash it, and walk away knowing that you've done absolutely everything you could to try and get that role. Now, the interview questions themselves can be tricky, so I'm going to be putting together various different videos that help you and give you guidance on how to answer those common interview questions, so do look out for those in the coming days. And if you want to know more about the common interview mistakes that candidates do make without realising, check out my video on that, which I've linked in the description box down below. Apply these tips, get preparing, and you will absolutely smash it on the day. Do let me know how you're doing with your interviews and whether you've applied these tips and they've helped you out in the comments section down below. And if you've got any friends that are applying for jobs and are maybe struggling with the interview process, just send them my way. Thanks guys, and best of luck with your interview prep.